more Palestinians killed since October 8th than have been killed by the U.S. in Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and Dresden. That total death toll was about 240,000 people. And those deaths were in countries, Germany and Japan, with 160 million population. Here we only have 2.3 million population. And all you got to do is read the Israeli press, read Haaretz, read the statements by 17 Israeli human rights groups.
Ralph Nader, we want to thank you for being with us. Longtime consumer advocate, corporate critic, four-time former presidential candidate. We'll link to your article in the Capitol Hill Citizen exposing the Gaza death undercount. That does it for our show. Watch tonight's debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris at democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
The viewpoints expressed in this program are the opinions of the people expressing them, and not necessarily those of Fresh Air Incorporated, its staff, or its board of directors.
Hi, this is Al McFarlane, host of The Conversation with Al McFarlane. You're listening to 98.3 FM, KFAI, Minneapolis. I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Promising a robust conversation today. In fact, several conversations, a lot. Of course, everybody in the world is primed and focused on the debate tonight. Who won't pay attention? I can tell you that from where I stand in the middle of the Black community, the African-American community, I'd say in the middle of the progressive community as well. We are excited, we're waiting, and we're expecting a great presentation, a great battle, but a victorious one by our candidate, my candidate. I'm supporting and hoping that we prevail with the candidacy of Vice President Kamala Harris. And so we'll see what happens tonight in the showdown. The first and final showdown between Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump in the debate arena. There's no way, from my point of view, that even with all of his nonsensical blubbering, we're going to have an inability to see through information that is negative, that is wrong, that is disinformation, and we should be able to see two positive ideas about the future for the country. Not saying this not as an endorsement of either campaign, but I'm saying that this is something that the whole world is watching, and we are watching as well. So with that, let me begin by bringing my colleague and friend on board who's here every Tuesday, and that's Coach Leah. Coach Leah, my friend, how you doing? And what's on your agenda today? We got about 7 minutes, so let's go straight into it. What's on your plate today?
We will absolutely keep it short and sweet. So just wanted to talk on the national side of things. Week 1 of the NFL got off the ground this past weekend and Monday. And I'll hopefully have our dear friend, Kim Davis, to kind of give her expertise recap of this past weekend. But I wanted to start with something very historic that happened in the NFL. And that is that a record 15 starting quarterbacks in the NFL were Black. That is phenomenal. We've got just a fun season underway, and wanted to just share a statement from a fellow sports writer, and her name is Blair Channing Ray, and she wrote this. She says, less than 60 years ago, Black athletes were not allowed to play the quarterback position in the NFL. They were deemed not smart enough or worthy of consideration. They were denied the chance because they were Black. Now, fast forward to 2024, there are 15 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Okay. If you don't see that as historical, then you simply don't want to. I tell you what. So with that being said, Kim, can you hang out with us for a little bit and give us your thoughts on what's going on in the NFL and how did week one? What did you think happened in week one? And don't
Hey, hey Kim, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So listen, I heard you talking about that, and we've talked about that quite a bit too. And the 15 black quarterbacks, and if you go back to think about how it started and how long it took to get here, I covered a guy when he came into the league after he had played with the Canadian League for a number of years on Warren Moon.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that working in Houston, covering the Oilers, they brought in Warren Moon. They drafted Steve McNair. Fast forward to now, the Houston Texans have they drafted Deshaun Watson, and now they have CJ Stroud. So I've had a chance to cover a lot of black quarterbacks in the league, but 15, as you mentioned, is really historic. Some had some great outings and some not so much, but it does go to show how the league has evolved. And, there's 6 black coaches. 2 years ago, we were talking about lamenting the fact that there were not many black coaches. And you're also starting to see more black people have the executive positions, president on the business side of the organization and general manager. Long overdue, but hopefully that trend will continue. So that was exciting. But listen, the NFL got off to a great start. It started on Thursday night with the Kansas City and the Ravens game. I do some work in Fox, and I picked the Ravens to win that game. So personally, I wanted them to win it. That was an amazing football game. It came down to the end. I'm a little surprised. You talk about 2 black quarterbacks. You had Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, but there was some criticism of Lamar Jackson's play in that game. They wouldn't have even been in it had it not been for him. So it started there. You had Jalen Hurts playing in the game on Friday nights, another black quarterback. So the games that stood out to me over the weekend was the opener. Obviously Kansas City and the Ravens. And then there was a game that a lot of people were waiting to see. And I want to say a lot of people, I'm going to say the people in New York,
Right.
TV executives, they were trying to see, are the Jets going to be what we hope they are? Is it the year that we can put Aaron Rodgers on all these primetime games and win the ratings war? And they weren't great. He was okay. They got beat by a better San Francisco team, but I'm not real sure how good the Jets team is going to be, but we're going to see them a whole lot because that's what the NFL does. In the AFC, the Texans, of course, played on the road to Indianapolis. It's a team that I cover daily. It was somewhat of a fun game to watch. I think it's the bright future for this young Texans team. And the team they played, Anthony Richardson, I think that young quarterback, another black quarterback, has a really bright future. That's going to be a long time rivalry. So there were some games over the weekend. The Rams and the Lions, went to overtime. I don't know that people expected your Vikings to show up the way they did. Now people are saying,
okay,
Sam Darnold for real. I mean, what should we see? So unfortunate injury to another young quarterback with the Green Bay Packers to see Jordan Love go out. So there were some highs and lows. Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick out of USC, another black quarterback, got his first win. It's the first time I think since 2002 that the number 1 overall pick as a quarterback won a game, and he did win it somehow, right? He had 93 yards passing. They had really no offense, but the Titans just made some unforgivable mistakes, and so the Bears won that game. So it was an interesting week 1. You see some teams that are a little rusty. You see the rookies trying to find their way. And week 2, you're going to see the Bears travel to Houston, so it'll be Caleb Williams and facing off against CJ Stroud and the Texans. But I'm excited about this time of year. It's football season. You have the final month of baseball season, and in less than 30 days. NBA teams will go to training camp. So it's a great time of year for me personally.
Kim, thank you for the update. Coach Lee, before we switch over, you got a couple of local things you want to share. Got about a minute.
Yes, I do. I want to talk about 2 North High alums. First, Tamara Moore, and she will be the first NBA scout for the Dallas Mavericks. And so kudos to her, and we'll do some more coverage on her and try to get her in to let us know how that is going for her as a scout. You know, I was able to serve as a scout in the WNBA, and it's a fun gig. It really, especially if you just love X's and O's. I mean, it's a fun gig. And then Brett McNeil. Both of these guys did have some time playing in professional basketball. Brett playing briefly in the NBA, who is an assistant director for the Minneapolis Public Schools Athletics, was recently promoted to Title IX compliance, assistant compliance coordinator. So that is huge. That's huge for the Minneapolis Public Schools and for Brett. And kudos again to those North High alum. Thank you, Al.
Thank you, Coach Leah, and thank you, Kim. I so enjoyed this conversation. We'll see you guys next week.
All right,
I'm Al
thank you.
McFarlane. This is the Conversation with Al McFarlane. And I want to let people know who are listening on KFAI that we're also streaming the program on several platforms. We're on 2 YouTube platforms, that of the Black Press of America, Black Press USA. We're on the Insight News YouTube channel. YouTube/Insight News MN. We're streaming across 3 Facebook platforms, across Twitter, and across LinkedIn. However you're connecting, wherever you're connecting, we appreciate you, we thank you, and we want you to stay connected and tell everybody else you know to join the conversation. What we promise and what we deliver, I believe, is robust conversation. Today's program is special because for the bulk of the program, we're going to be talking about a dear friend of mine, an elder, a leader who now is with us as an ancestor. And that's Bernadette Anderson. Her family and her community, our neighborhood, worked together with city public officials to rename a street in North Minneapolis, the block on Russell Avenue between Plymouth and 12th, where she lived and where she raised not only her family, but the community, and raised a impressive powerhouse of talent, of community service, of dedication, of consciousness. Well, we're going to be talking to members of Bernadette Anderson's family, and they're going to tell us about the special event coming up this Friday that they want everybody to be aware of, and they invite everybody to. Before we do that, let me bring in a new person whose voice I think is one that is critically important and exciting, and that is Simone Harcum. Simone is coming to the Twin Cities in a couple of weeks to perform as part of Minnesota Opera's Glam Jam Benefit Concert. It's a concert that takes place on Saturday, September 28th at Ordway Center for the Performing Arts in downtown St. Paul. And Simone is going to be one of several guests headlining the program. The entire program will be hosted by RuPaul Drag Race All-Stars 4 winner Monet X Change. Simone, welcome to the conversation. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Al. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. Just jump right in, and if you would talk about the work you're doing with the Minnesota Opera and about this event coming up, the Glam Jam.
Yes. So I am a soprano. I sing with plenty of companies around the country, but Minnesota Opera for the past few years has been my home company. I started out there as a young artist, resident artist with the program, and then I became a company artist in my next year. And last year I returned as a principal artist to sing in La Boheme. And this season we're starting off the season with in place of a gala, a formal gala, sit-down gala, something I think is much more fun, a concert with all of these incredible artists. And it'll be at the Ordway Theater. And I hope everybody's ready for quite a lot of fun and a lot of good singing.
Well, your colleague and one of the administrators of the opera is in backstage. We'll bring him in. Isaac Mayhew. Isaac, good afternoon. Welcome to the conversation, and thank you for facilitating this conversation. Bring Isaac on camera. Isaac, how you doing, man?
Good, Al. Thank you for having us on here.
Well, so my big question is make the connection between opera and Black people. Because in history, there's a sense that it's somebody else's work, somebody else's genre, somebody else's whatever. But my thing, Isaac, is that beauty belongs to everybody, to humanity. And what the opera presents is an approach to what is beautiful, and that is universal because it's human. What do you think? You tell me what the connection is from your point of view as one of the producers, organizers, administrators of the work of Minnesota Opera.
Yeah, I mean, my role at Minnesota Opera is mostly focused on getting folks like Simone in front of as many people as possible, so that as many people can hear about the work that we're doing here. I would say though that Minnesota Opera's vision is to sing every story. And so, and our mission is to advance this art form by widening that circle of who, and because it's true that historically, our opera has not always been the most inclusive space, but in 2024, it's well past time to work to change that. And so that's what we're trying to do, because it is really an art form with an immense capacity to offer expression, and that I think any human can relate to that.
Simone,
how did you come to the opera? To this field, this genre?
Yeah, of course. Actually, it's serendipitous, I think, that I'm sitting in the room that I'm sitting in. I'm here at Norfolk State University, where I came through in my undergraduate studies. And I was here as an education major I got here in 2008. And I was going to be a teacher, a chorus teacher. And about halfway through my time here, I got a new teacher who had been in the opera world, who was still performing at the time. And she said, "Hey, Simone, you should go and sing for the opera down the street, in the chorus." And I said, "No, that sounds terrible." And she says, "Well, you're going to be teaching, so you'll need an extra check." And I said, "Well, you're right about that." So I auditioned for the opera, Virginia Opera, which is about 5 minutes down the street here. And they put me in Pearl Fishers in the chorus. And I sang in Pearl Fishers before I had ever seen an opera on stage. And instantly through that process, I fell in love with it. And I was teaching at the time. I taught middle school chorus here in Norfolk. And I loved it. And I fell in love. And then I was coerced, really, by the rest of them into going to grad school for voice. And I didn't look back. That's kind
awesome.
I've always been singing, though. Opera, opera came to me, I think, kind of easily, though, because of my work that started in the church, in church choirs, around musicians, in Black choirs, Black reading choirs. I had my musicianship and my music skills were developed right here in my community.
So make the connection, the same question I asked Isaac, we'll close with this, between Black people and opera. What's the natural connection? I think you represent that. Go ahead.
I think the natural connection is the same connection that everyone has to it. It just hasn't, we don't know about those connections. And I'll say again, I'm here at Norfolk State University, where the teachers here have performed, and opera has been present in the Black community for as long as it has been present in any community in this country. It has been separate. It has been happening separately, and there's a lot happening now, where we are shining a light on that side of the American story. On the part of that story that is really not told or not documented in the way that it should have been, where we can speak about our examples that we look to in our closed communities, that as they were and are now opening up. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited about bringing that kind of community, that kind of flavor, just introducing what has already been there to the other side, of things. And I think Minnesota Opera is doing really well in that vein, actually. I think that a beautiful melding of or writing of the ship, writing of the story, is happening at Minnesota Opera. And I think it's just a natural progression of what has been happening there and the vision that has been happening there. So
Isaac, Isaac, let me have you make the invitation.
Yeah, just if folks are interested in hearing Simone and a number of other amazing performers perform a great program that's going to range from, we got musical theater, we got opera, as I said, as you mentioned, Al, at the top, Saturday, September 28th, just head to nopera.org and tickets are available there. So thank you so much, Al, for having us on.
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Simone. And we'll come back and do more, okay? I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. What a wonderful beginning. 2 great interviews already, but I got more. So I'm glad you're here. Tell somebody that we're going live now. And I'm going to invite a friend, a neighbor of mine, to co-host, to co-anchor the balance of today's program. And that is the great musical master, Andre Simone, my neighbor. He grew up 2 blocks from where I'm sitting right now. I'm on Thomas Avenue. He grew up on Russell Avenue. And in fact, his house and his block is a house that's going to be celebrated in the next few days, but has been celebrated and will continue to live in a celebratory fashion here and beyond. Andre, come on in. And good afternoon, brother. Good to see you. Welcome to the conversation. And this is just a wonderful opportunity to celebrate your mom. We're calling her Queen Bernie. Queen Bernie. Front page and Inside News this week. Queen Bernie.
So that is so special. You have no idea, man. She would be, well, she is. She's up there looking and smiling and
that's right,
giving us that sunshine. She's a beautiful spirit.
Well, so what's happening Friday? And talk about it. Why is it being happening? Why is it the naming? What's the meaning of it? Why it's important for us to recognize, So what's in your heart? What's in your mind? And you can invite other people who are in the back room into the conversation. You and I are going to hang out, and co-host this festival. Okay.
Well, if anybody is, because I know that I tried to invite as many folks as I could, especially because it's, the thing about the Minneapolis music community is we're all connected. I mean, we're all really brothers, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So that's my family. I love those brothers, man, and I'm super proud of them and everything they've done. Morris, obviously, he was in our band. He's a beautiful brother too. All of them, man, everybody. And I reached out to a lot of musicians, and they all said they didn't even hesitate. In fact, when other musicians heard about it, they reached out, and I was like, hey, because we're just going to have a kind of a jam session. And we're going to jam on some of my mother's favorite songs. My mom she loved blues. So we're going to have Sue Ann Carwell come in, and she's going to sing some blues. We're going to do some Sly and the Family Stone. She loved a lot of, funk. Bernadette could get down. She could dance.
That's right.
In the living room, we all be in there just between her and my brother Sonny, they'd be cutting the rug. But it really means so much. It's, there's so many things that, that my mother speaks to when it comes to the community. This. Same with you. You guys are really, y'all made the community so special. You really did. I always try to tell people, people don't understand that if your community is behind you, there's no stopping you. That really, Spike, my mom, Liz Samuels, the name goes on. Y'all was the wind beneath the wings of a lot of us when we were doing what we were doing. Because, first you have to, it's easy to believe in yourself. Well, maybe sometimes it isn't easy. But when you got a community behind you that supports you and gives you places to play, because you got to have people. You got to go in front of people to really kind of, let people know what you can do. And when your community is supporting you, say, go on up there. And you go up there and then you get that confidence. And if you can win over your community, you can win over, I mean, because I know for us, it was like, well, if we can win these guys, because these guys are tough critics. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, and it, you know, so, but you know, the thing, back to my mother, the thing about her, she had a very open door policy, you know, and she allowed me to really kind of bring, you know, kids in, musicians in, other kids that weren't even into music. And it created an environment of just kind of camaraderie, of friendship, of, you know, brotherhood, you know, and she had this, you know, she would come and talk to everybody. And I was, you know, just saying, you know, she would look at you and she'd say, she'd find out, you know, she'd get to know you, and she'd identify, you know, what it was that you maybe weren't sure about yourself. And she'd polish it up and brighten it up, and she'd make you feel good about it. And so when you left, you felt good about yourself. You know, she gave you a spiritual, like, sort of overhaul. You know, and she did that to, you know, everybody. She did that to Prince. You know, I mean, that was, you know, that brother was lucky. He was blessed to have my mom give him that spiritual sort of, you know, recognition. She did that to my siblings. She did it to me. She I mean, you know, my brothers. I mean, she, you know, everybody in the community. The other thing that she did as you know, as a community leader is she represents the best of what's possible, you know, because I think about her, you know, coming through her circumstances, because she was, you know, had kids young. There's 6 of us, you know, and she raised us. I mean, she had, you know, my brother when she was 15, and I think, you know, that had a lot to do with her strength and her power. And I think also in going back to school and getting an education, because, you know, she had a kind of rough go of it. You know, she was separated because her parents had tuberculosis, so they were isolated. They were quarantined, and so her family was all separated and spread out. And so she wound up, I think, on a farm, and, you know, I think in a foster home. So she had to kind of overcome all of that, and I think that kind of gave her an insight into what it was like to be in that situation. And I think that made her look at other people's situations completely different. And it gave her a love. I mean, I think she had it anyway, but it gave her a love for, you know, people that were going through tough times. And she would just shine her light on all of them. And she did it in the community. And so, you know, I mean, and I think she instilled that spirit in all of us, in my sister Sylvia, my sister Tricia, my sister Linda, my brothers, my nieces, my nephews, and me, obviously, you know. And I think her love, you know, is so much a part of really what, you know, is kind of a product of what we came out of the community doing. Because we, you know, obviously, you know, if you think about all the different musicians that came out of Minneapolis, we're somehow connected, you know what I mean? And I think that connective tissue has a lot to do with my mother. And I think that's why, you know, so many people, you know, reached out and, or when I reached out, they just said, hey, I'm down. What you want? You know, I mean, you know, Sonny Thompson, I reached out to him first. I said, hey, Sonny, I'm doing a job. I'm there. I don't even think I finished the sentence, you know, and I reached
just like that.
Yeah, man, you know, just other folks. And they just showed so much love. And I really appreciate that. You know, I mean, I'm, you know, me as a musician, you know, I've always tried to stay as humble as I possibly can because of where I come from. You know, from coming from Minneapolis and coming from my set of circumstances, it kind of keeps you humble and keeps you grounded. And I try to stay that way. And you know, and I think, you know, when you deal with so many different musicians, especially really, really, you know, world-class musicians, and they're all connected. The fact that they really kind of reached out to me and said, hey, what can I do?
That's amazing.
A lot about it.
Let me show this cover for the people listening on radio. Use your imagination. You can see this in your mind's eye, but I'm presenting on our screen now for our social media platforms the cover image of Insight News, this week's Insight News. And it's a picture of Bernadette Anderson flanked by 2 other queens, but the headline says Queen Bernie, and the cut line says 3 queens, and it shows Bernie in the center, flanked by Queen Liz Samuels and also Queen Patty Frazier, Hickman, luminary, historic, legendary women warrior leaders, queens all. Let me bring in one more voice to start with, and that's Tyrone Terrell. Brother Tyrone, everything that I could say and that Andre has been saying, I know that you could say and amplify, because you, like me, were one of the people that benefited from the power, the force, the vision, and the fearlessness of Bernie and her crew, her crowd of fierce women leaders. Tyrone, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Al. I'm overexcited about this. My older brother Andre again. Brother, Queen Bernie, Mother Bernie, and I said this when Spike got his street naming, that a lot of times me and Spike may have been the one on TV and the newspaper, but many things we were doing was orchestrated by Bernie, Queen Bernie, Mother Liz. Even in my wallet, I carry pictures of my mom, my aunt. I carry this picture in this picture, and I carry this one with me all the time. Because my kids would sometimes, and I have an 8x10 of that same picture. My grandkids picked it up one day and said, in Islam, it's Baba, right? They said, Baba, is this our family member? And I said to a male, yes, that's a great grandmother for you. And I had to tell them the story of Queen Bernie. But it's just been, brother, everything good about the North Side is Queen Bernie, brother, everything. And Andre's too young to remember we used to have parties in the basement.
I'm not.
Sonny and me worked, and Gary Hines at the Minnesota Department of Human Rights. And we would have our holiday parties in the basement.
I remember.
I remember one year we were having a great party. The music was good. Prince came downstairs and turned the lights on. Everybody started screaming. No, Prince, not now. Right.
She was in his room.
Right. But no, man, that house, Bernie always loved people, man. She always loved people. And I remember one time we were in a meeting and a lady said she wanted to slap me, right? And Bernie said, well, my boys can't slap you, but I can. Right? So, excuse me, I got a little cough. But brother, it's just been that kind of love and support from this woman, this magnificent woman, brother. That will always be dear to my heart, and along with her and Mother Liz. I mean, they just they'll never get the credit that they deserve. But those that been in this work,
unless we give it to them.
We give it to them, that's right, brother.
And that's the point of this whole thing, is that if we don't say it, it won't be said.
That's right.
And we need to say it. We can say it. We must say it. And Andre, you and the family have taken that to heart, and you are telling the world who we are, where we have come from, and that guides us to where we must go towards liberation and freedom for our people, and changing for humanity altogether. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, they instilled so many powerful, anecdotes about life in all of us. About it. I go on, and it just kind of really trips me out, because there's so many, stories and beautiful things about what my mom did, and one of the things that one of the things that she did is I used to take those guys to casinos. Liz, K. Smith, we would all get, I'd pile in my mom's car whenever I'd be in town, and we'd drive to one of the casinos, and we'd just have a blast, I had that kind of relationship that y'all had, and I just wanted to say one of my Bernadette's oldest granddaughters are online, Dina. But yeah, it's like, you know, because I would love for her to say, you know, speak about her grandmother. You know, 'cause
Dina,
yeah.
bring Dina in. Dina, are you there? I think she's there. As soon as
I'm
she's
here.
there, yeah. We lost we saw your picture
I'm here.
earlier. Oh, there you are. How
I'm
you doing, Dina? Okay.
I'm trying to transition to leave out too to get my t-shirt made. But yes, something that I wanted to share as one of the older granddaughters is I was around as the kid that answered the phones of Andre and Prince's phone calls. And but what I remember with my grandma is her love is a condition of the heart. It's not something that's taught. It's not something that's bought. It's something that is just a condition of the heart. She loved all. She opened her door to all my friends. There was never a restriction on who could come over, who could hang out. But one of my greatest memories of my grandma is when the 3 stores was on Plymouth Avenue: Marketdale, Tina's, and the Sweet Shop. Well, I used to like to hang out in front of there and smoke cigarettes. And my grandma could see me right out the kitchen window of that house in 1244 Russell.
Yep.
So she carried a roar that everybody knew.
Mm-hmm.
So she would yell out the window, "Dina," you know. I already knew it was before I could even react. Everybody was looking at me. Your grandma's calling you. It's like, yeah, okay, you know. Another time, I tried to sneak and go to school with my older cousin Alicia, who rests in paradise. She has passed on, but I tried to skip school one day and go to school with her on her school bus. And about 2 stops from her stop, where I got on with her, it stopped, and here came my grandma.
Oh.
She's climbing on the bus to remove me off the bus. How she knew. So one thing I just like to tell kids in this day and age, when your parents say they have eyes everywhere, they do. They literally, I was raised by the village, the Liz Samuels, the Gail Smiley, the Candy Whitaker, all of those guys, and they all worked either around with or for my grandmother. So I have the greatest memories of being a kid. I have the greatest memories of her and her support of everyone's whatever they wanted to do, whether it was musically, whether it was athletically. I remember one of the last memories I have with me, her, and my daughter is just me and her and my daughter were at my daughter's track and field day. So she just always showed up for all of us all the time. It didn't matter. There was no one person ahead of another. You called, she came. And for anything, my grandma would come and fight with me if I asked her to. So she was a beast for sure. I love her. She was a disciplinary. I believe that's where I get that trait from. I believe all children, one thing she always told me is kids are supposed to listen to adults. And that has just always stuck with me. It doesn't work all that well nowadays, but I still carry the values that my grandma taught me as a child. Respect my elders, you know, and just be the best Dina that Dina can be. She always loved me for me, and I just love her. And one other thing I remember is her being Prince's bodyguard pretty much at the Capri concert. So as a child, I had to go to all these concerts, and really they weren't stars to me. These were my uncles, you know. So I wanted to go to NWA or one of them, you know, one of the rap concerts or something. But in support, we always had to support one another, and that was something that I had to do. But I remember her pretty much being his bodyguard because he didn't have a budget for that. My mom making his costumes, and my mother giving Andre and Prince a diamond earring, and kind of a congratulatory sense of you guys are on your way. So, Mom, I'm still looking for my diamond earring too. So.
Your mama Sylvia, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Sylvia is also one of the great ones. You can say that about anybody in your family, though. You all have done and continue to do so much. And thank you. You know, I see Dara Caesar here in the back room. I want to bring her in. Dara, again, one of the great ones, great artist,
Yes,
great
I remember Miss
spirit
Caesar.
in our community. Dara, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. I feel so honored to be here. This is such an extension for me of family, of community. And I can't say enough about Bernie. We share the same birthday. And I was, she hired me as the youth director at Hawkins YWCA. And I tell you, that was truly an experience. From community to activism, Bernie is and was and continues to be my mentor, you know, a leader, such a leader, coming as a Black woman, and not taking any stuff. Nope. She was strong. She spoke her mind. We gave the YWCA a fit down there. Their whole mantra about eliminating racism, that was Bernie. That was Bernie. That she made them come up with that mantra for the YWCA. Just, you know, taken away when I hear the names Liz Samuels, and I didn't hear Fannie. Nobody mentioned Fannie yet. Fannie and Kay Smith. You know, these were strong women in the community, who also aborted that whole ideology of Black women, the negative ideology of Black women in the projects. These were women who, Glenwood Lindell was on fire over there because of women like Bernadette Anderson, who were standing up for causes and standing up for children and the rights of Black people, the Black community. So yeah, a lot of folks who we all were able to stand on her shoulders, you know, as we came along.
Let me bring another voice in. I see Dana Dawson is in the back room there. Dana is a friend and just a wonderful, light, angelic spirit in our community. Dana, how you doing? Good to see you. It's been a long, long time, and welcome. Dana was part of the team over at Inside News back in the day. Dana, as you're thinking about and reflecting on Queen Bernie, what thoughts come to mind?
My first thoughts that come to mind is I'm just so happy, beyond happy, to see that she's being recognized and honored for all her good work in the community. Her dedication and her commitment to youth and family is just incomparable to anything that I've ever seen. My earliest memory of her, well, of course, she was my aunt, but my very first memory of her is her advocating for me. After my mother sent me here from Los Angeles, she kind of got work there, had no family there, but my grandmother had a small chat with me and told me that she couldn't care for me. And I kind of had a small conversation. Well, a social worker kind of stepped in, and I was kind of going to be put up pretty much for adoption or put in foster care. And my Aunt Bernie showed up, stood up for me, advocated for me, said that I was coming to her house. And I actually live with aunts, but I think the most defining, impactful memories of my aunt was that the way she advocated for me is I seen her do that for so many youth through programs at the YWCA. Just her, it was amazing to see her create pathways for youth in the community to help them find and express, develop and nurture their talents, skills, and abilities. And she just had just her dedication and life's passion to that is just something that I haven't seen often.
Tyrone, you know, we talk about Bernie and Liz and you know, Patty and uh, other sisters that were leaders. They would always, for me, be up at the public policy forum up at Lucille's Kitchen every week when we had people from around the world coming in talking about public policy. In fact, Minneapolis and Northside became the home of public policy for Black folks in Minnesota. And at one level, we were talking and doing things that were beyond. But one of the things that Bernie and Liz told me that I think is in my memory is that they had the clarity and the temerity to take a fool to the basement. That's what they called it. If somebody, was out of pocket, out of line, could be a public official, could be a business person, could be a bopper on the street, they would say, "Oh, we gonna take them to the basement," and you knew what that meant. They were gonna straighten them out, and people got straightened out. They delivered a message, where they wasn't playing. Tyrone, what you think about that?
Oh no, I remember those conversations, and that was something you definitely did not want to have happen. Because again, we may be on the forefront, but again, Bernie and Liz and others were as strong, extremely strong Black women. We're definitely leaders in our community. There's no question about it, Al. And I miss those Lucille days with your conversation with Al McFarlane, because we need that again, Al, to be honest. We need that. And we need more holding our people accountable. Sometimes we get too comfortable saying we have a Black this or a Black that, but when you're not doing right by our community, then there has to be somebody that takes you to the basement. It doesn't always mean physically do something to you, but having that.
But it could.
It easily could, and we still need that. We need to hold each other accountable. Particularly, we're talking about doing what's right for our community.
That's right.
Our young people today are starving. They're starving for leadership. They're starving for men. Spike said it 5 years ago at our Men on March dinner. If Black men stand up, Black boys will sit down. The Black men in our community refuse to take their rightful place in the lives of their children, both boys and girls. Need to see a responsible Black man. And those are the kind of things that Queen Bernie and Mother Liz stood by all the time and stood on and stood strong.
Andre, let me ask you to bring another voice into the conversation of the inimitable Jimmy Jam. But Andre, let me have you make the introduction.
And Jimmy, we're cousins. Okay, yeah, there we go. We're cousins, so it's like this is like family. But I'm glad to have him here, Jimmy Jam. I miss you, brother. I miss you. There he is. There he is.
What's up?
What's up?
What's up, cuz?
Hey, I just saw some of the other family. I was just in Sioux Falls, and everybody said send love. So I'm sending love.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Sending it right back. Back.
Jimmy, give me your reflections when you think about and say when Queen Bernie visits you, what is she saying to your spirit, to your soul? What does she bring in memory and connection to you? And brother, thank you for being here. Thank you for all you have done and all you represent. Thank you so much, man.
Brother, thank you for having me, and thank you for everything that you're continuing to do. So we appreciate having the forum here today to honor this great lady. To me, it's all about, I think it's just mostly for me, it's about just support. We could have gone a lot of different ways. There was a lot of wrong ways that we all could have gone in our lives. But luckily, in our case, we had someone like Bernadette where she was making sure that we had a place to go, where we had a place to do our music. We had a place for, she looked out for us, and it was kind of that situation where in the neighborhood, there was always like certain people that just looked out for everybody. Like everybody's kids were their kids. And that to me was what Bernadette represented. So we appreciate it every day, you know, that we're here and still being allowed to do our thing and make our music and make the impact on the world, that if it wasn't for people like her, there wouldn't be people like us, because we wouldn't have survived.
Let me do two things. One is invite people to come to the special event, the unveiling of the street sign, honorary street sign naming the street in front of 1244 Russell in North Minneapolis, Russell Avenue between Plymouth and 12th, to Queen Bernadette Anderson Way. That's a significant thing. So it's an event that happens, I think, beginning at 3 o'clock. Correct me if I'm wrong, 3 o'clock this Friday, the 13th, and goes on probably up till dark, but a number of political and community voices, but also great artists will be there to make a jam session, and that I think is going to be significant. So before we close, we'll say that again, because we want people to mark it down and to show up. But I want to take a minute to have the conversation between Jimmy Jam and Andre about you guys being 7, 8, 9 years old, and what the world looked like then, and how you grew into becoming who you are, and what you have given the world through your artistry and through your unyielding intent to bring voice to what you knew and what you know and what you believed the world could be. Jimmy, what you think? And Andre, jump in.
Well, I mean, for me, I just remember, I mean, I always had, first of all, I had the support of my parents, my dad, who was very musical and kind of had that side of it for me. And then my mom was really the person that took me around and made sure that I was kind of always immersed in the culture, so to speak. I remember being little, and I always remember going to whether it was the Children's Theater or the Walker Arts Center or the Guthrie Theater, or, you know, whatever, anything that I could be immersed in artistically, that was kind of where I was at. And I appreciated that, because that gave me the musical foundation. It gave me my roots and my appreciation of music and of culture and the things that I knew, the kind of transformative experience, I guess, if you will, that music and the arts allowed us to have. So that's my memory of a kid growing up.
Andre, what about you? And how did this thing all fall together for you and for you all?
Well, you know, I mean, for me, you know, the culture back then was, you know, music. You know, I mean, my dad was a musician as well, but he didn't really want me to play music at all. In fact, he didn't really kind of push me. My mom kind of did, but you know, but I have to say, you know, I mean, the spirit that existed at that point, because Jimmy was in a band on the other side of town.
Yep.
He was making a whole lot of noise over there, you know. So we was trying to make our little noise over on the north side, and then, you know, we had brothers like Sonny T and David Island and Terry and their band, because they was making all kinds of noise. So it was just such a beautiful, you know. When I think back on it now, you know, because back then I was in the trenches, because it was like Take No Prisoners. We were all like, you know, but you know, after you get a little older and you start to look back on, you know, sort of the things that you were able to accomplish, you know, you start to appreciate the people that helped you, you know, kind of inspired you, that kind of pushed you, you know, because even though we weren't always in the same band, you know, we looked up to those guys, because we you know, we knew talent. We knew people that were like, you know, so we were like, well, we got to up our game, you know, we got to raise our bar. And I think, you know, that's what, you know, definitely what Jimmy represented. That's one of the things that I really appreciate. And, you know, anytime I reach out to Jimmy, he's always, I got you, man. And you know, you don't know how much I appreciate that from all of y'all, you know, and because for me, you know, I mean, it's not, you know, I didn't get into music to try to get the chicks or for money and all that kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, all that stuff is great.
I was going to say, don't undersell it now.
Don't undersell it. You know, music got into me. I just, you know, probably Prince's dad probably had more to really do with really inspiring me to stay, you know, grounded, because his dad would always give us, you know, lectures and And again, the community,
Yeah.
all, and coming back to my mom and Liz and all of those folks, man, Spike, and all of those folks
Yep.
who really kind of, really talked to us and gave us opportunities. Gave us opportunities to perform. Spike gave us opportunities to perform. Everybody in the community gave us opportunities. Al gave us opportunities to perform. And, some of that stuff was some of my fondest memories, because that's really kind of, you can't, we can all think we can do this stuff on our own, but it's like a daisy chain of reality that allows things to actually happen,
So Andre, let me ask you, and Jimmy, what's it feel like for you now, or when you guys first started traveling the world with your music? How did it feel to walk into somewhere, say maybe Tokyo, or maybe in the Netherlands or London or South Africa or somewhere in the Caribbean, and hear your music being played over a loudspeaker system in a club or on radio? What does that do for you? How does that make you feel? How does it reaffirm, the appropriateness of the path you chose? Jimmy, what you think?
It's still surreal. I mean, we just were in Japan. Actually, the juxtaposition was very interesting. We played a hometown gig about a month ago, a little over a month ago. We played our hometown. And that was great because before every song we played, we were pretty much able to say, this was recorded right in Minneapolis. So we got that hometown love, which was absolutely wonderful. But then in the last 3 weeks, we were in Japan. And we felt that same love where people were singing every song and knew everything that we were doing. And it just, music is just the ultimate communicator. I call it the divine art, because it's that thing that it's time travel. It takes you back to that place when you hear that song that you used to listen to, takes you right back to that moment. You remember the smells in the air, the temperature, you remember the people you're with. And that's divine to me. That's what God does to your brain when music happens. And I also think that it's a thing that keeps us, when you talk about the metaphor heaven on earth, I think music is involved in that, because it would be in a lot of ways, music keeps us sane down here. And it's the healing power that it has and the ability to communicate with people around the world. So to me, I feel so privileged to be able to do it. But I also realize that so much of our success was based in geographically being in Minneapolis and having the people like Andre mentioned, the Spike Lee, I'm sorry, not Spike Moss, rather. Spike Lee, Spike Moss, and people like that, to make sure that we had a place to really grow and keep us out of trouble and keep us, even though we were competitive, like Andre said, in different bands, we were competitive with each other, but we also knew that we were all really good. And if we stuck together, something great could happen.
Andre, people have reached out to you. I think I talked to you once and you were just getting back from the Middle East and you're doing work there. But so what is it like to have, to be a kid from Russell Avenue in Plymouth, in North Minneapolis, standing in Dubai or somewhere in the Middle East, teaching, encouraging, or performing? What did that feel like?
It's again, like Jimmy said, it's surreal, because I think about, let me bring it to a local thing and then let me go to a European thing. Because, I always think about it like this. When we, with Prince's first record, and again, this is a reflection of my mother, because my mother, inspires all of us. She inspired Prince. She inspired my brother, and Prince will tell you, he's on, Talbot Smiley. He said, if it wasn't for Eddie and Andre and those guys in the Andersons, they gave me the confidence to feel like I could do this.
We got a minute left. Go ahead.
Okay. His first single came out. I was in Chicago. My cousin was having a wedding, and we were trying to figure out how to get it out there. And so I knew there was a DJ going to be at the reception. So I brought the single there. It was Soft and Wet. And so I went up to the DJ. I said, listen, because he was on air and I said, I got this single. I'm in this band with this dude, and And he looked at software. Wait, I'm not playing this. What is this? I said, no, it's, I had to try to convince him that it wasn't some sort of, So he played it, and it was playing in the Cabrini Green apartments. I could hear it. It was like, and the record broke out of Chicago. So fast forward to, after Prince passed, and the MPG asked me to come and do some shows with him in Europe. We were in Switzerland, and I remember me and Sonny were sitting at this outdoor bar in Switzerland. It was beautiful. I mean, and we were like drinking a beer, and
30 seconds.
And we were saying, you know what, coming from where we came from, this is what it's all about. And we're able to talk to people and connect to the world. So
guys, we're out of time. Everybody, Friday, 3 o'clock, North Minneapolis, Plymouth and Russell Avenue, celebrating Queen Bernie. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.